call the meeting to order and ask to call the roll.
Blunier. Leach.
Here.
Lehman. Menold.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
Parrott. Kaufman.
Here,
We have a quorum.
you join me in Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a public hearing tonight, a public hearing on the pre-annexation agreement with Highland Morton LLC for 7.684 acres off Highland Road, Morton, Illinois. Does anyone have any comments on that? Craig, do you want to explain what that is? Public might know.
I might defer to Brad since he was
Okay, Brad?
involved with it.
So the current FedEx facility is looking to expand the parking lot, which is adjacent to property that is not in the village of Morton. So they're looking to annex that. And then later on in your packet, there's a rezoning and the preliminary and final plats for that. And Pat, if you have any, Pat obviously drew up this agreement. So if you have anything. that you'd like to-
Pre-annexation agreements consistent with what we've done in the past, requires payment of your normal development fees, and is otherwise generally unremarkable.
Okay, so if nobody has anything, we'll close that public hearing. Public comments, anyone in the audience like to talk?
Guess that's my turn.
Yep, you'd go up to the podium.
I'm serious, I've never been on it. My name is Paul Grethy Jr., and I am the owner of Johnson's Floral and Greenhouse and Simple Living Farms out in Groveland. And first off, and lifelong Mortonite, I know most people in here. First off, I just want to tell everybody, you guys have done a great job, I think. And we are blessed to live in the community that we live in. Nothing, I think we're being proactive. I just wanted to say thank you, first off, to everyone for dedicating their time. Right, we really appreciate it. I'm here today, we filled out we were looking at the Village of Morton Business Sustainability Grant. And when we were going through that, Leanne brought this to our attention. She showed this grant to us. It seemed very specific. Bars, restaurants, hair salons, right? I'm just making, right, we don't have a whole lot of retail businesses in our community to begin with. It seemed very specific, and I just wanted to make sure that flower shop, greenhouse, retail was also, if we could look at that as well. Because if you look at our numbers for the year that you guys are, for the request of financials. In March, we were down 47%. April, we were down 52%. May, we were up 42% because that was Mother's Day. That's when everyone came out. June, we were up 200%. That was the payment protection plan. Check. July, we were minus 73%. August, minus 52%. September, 139%. That was due to funerals now opening back up. October, minus 24.57%, and November, minus 43.2%. So we went through, we filled out our application, we submitted it. We were gonna write a letter. I thought it'd be better if we just came in person and explained it. It just seemed very vague, and I just wanted to kind of let you know, we're a retail business as well, been in the community, supported everybody. And I want everyone to remember this. Those are big numbers, right? Those are big numbers. And I'm going to say it because I can do it. When they closed greenhouses, our big box store, Walmart, took everything from their greenhouse and moved it into the aisles. And they said, I couldn't be open, okay? They said, you have to stay closed. And they pimped the system and moved it into the grocery aisles. And that is downright not right. And I just wanted to, I could go on about this, but this whole situation is had a humongous impact on specific businesses and non-specific that are listed in this grant. So, thank you all for your time, right? Your efforts. Have an awesome Christmas, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks for coming in, Paul. I mean, I think that we love it when you guys come in and speak your mind about something especially specific like this, and sharing the numbers. And you guys are important to Morton, and your business is, and along with everybody else's, and we want you guys to be successful too.
Sure.
Yeah, appreciate it.
No, that's pretty much it. Have a great Christmas, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. Leanne Brown with the Morton Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council. Certainly couldn't end this year without saying a few words this evening to wrap out 2020. Wanted to extend a thank you to the board, the mayor, certainly our chamber members and our EDC investors for being alongside of us and helping us to make a great impact in our community. We were able to host a Reimagined Festival. Over $65,000 have been purchased in chamber checks. We've been able to navigate through a lot of information with a lot of help from this room and helping our businesses and community. So just want to say thanks to our chamber members and our EDC investors for their continued support and coming together to collaborate and really help our community navigate this year. A couple of things to wrap up and kind of note as we go into next year. Leadership Morton, a program that our chamber's been hosting for many, many years, will continue. It will look different so we can safely host it, but it will launch the end of January. Will be an 8-week program with a variety of leadership topics and speakers and opportunities. So registration's open for that. And then save the date, we will be hosting. It'll look different. We'll maybe play into the Reimagine that we did this year. But our chamber annual meetup, you'll still be able to enjoy that on the first Thursday of February. So save the date, Thursday, February 4th. We'll have information to release, but save the date. And then end of January, we will release information regarding our EDC symposium, highlighting our 2020 year and some updates as we go into 2021. And then we'll look to host in person May or June and issue out our Venture Award at that time. So we will continue our chamber annual meetup, and it'll look different, feel different, but we certainly look forward to celebrating and honoring our Distinguished Service Award recipient and our 2020 Volunteer of the Year Award. So with that, just want to thank everyone again and wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and look forward to serving our community and working alongside all of our great members and businesses for 2021. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. The consent agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting, December 7th, 2020, and the approval of the bills. If we could have a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I have nothing tonight. Village clerk.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Village administrator.
I have a couple items tonight, Your Honor. The first of which is recommendations from the Tourism Grant Committee for the Fall Tourism Grant Round. We had actually only 3 events that applied this round. The Small Town Pastors Conference, Fourth Fridays, and the Hometown Holidays. Is anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on those?
I have one. The Rural Home Missionary, we've been supporting them for years at $10,000. And they probably are the one group that has more rooms than anybody. And for some reason, it's only 7,000 this year, and I would support that to be back at 10,000. A lot of churches support that and have meals and different things go on there. They usually are at Grace Church, and they fill the place. If you've ever done a welcome there, there's sometimes 500 here visiting the town, and they stay for about 3 or 4 days, I think. So if there's ever an organization that uses our hotels, it's that organization.
Can I ask a question? Why did they make it 7,000?
It was based on the scoring. How this goes is grant application packets are given to the members of the Tourism Grant Committee, and then they each score them separately, return them to me, and I just compile them, and based on the scoring that they were given, they were put in the lower amount.
I think one of the items was the meals. They don't need a lot of meals at the restaurants, but they do support the hotels, gas, and everything else. And a lot of citizens, I believe, help support the meals through the churches there.
I know that a couple years ago, they had to go outside for meals for some of them because they had such a large participation that they couldn't feed them all in the facilities that they had. That was a couple years ago, but I do know that they did
But a
that.
lot of these are from poor areas too across the
Right.
country.
They're small town,
That it's maxing them out just to come
right,
and pay for the hotels.
right.
Well, if we were to amend the motion, does the person who made the motion be the one to amend it, or can I?
Well, a friendly amendment would require the consent of the movant and the party who seconded, or any party could make a motion to amend the existing motion that's on the table.
I'll make a motion to amend my motion
And
to
I'll-
increase that grant to $10,000.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. So what are we voting on the amendment first?
Yep.
So we'll be voting on the amendment. Pat, tell them what they're voting on.
You're voting to amend the amount of the grant to the Rural Home Missionary Association from $7,000 to $10,000.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Menold,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Amended motion passes.
Now we'll vote on the original motion. Pat?
Yes. So if you vote yes, you're voting yes to award grants, and it'd be $10,000 to the Rural Home Missionary Association, $3,000 to Morton Chamber of Commerce for Fourth Fridays, and $700 to Morton Chamber of Commerce for hometown holidays.
Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Menold,
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The second item I have tonight is a recommendation from the Business District Commission for some grants for building improvement grants. This, two applicants, one is Schooners at 630 West Jackson, one is Hambrick Commercial Properties at 117 West Jefferson. Schooners is going to be doing some work on their outdoor eating area. Their grant, the total project cost was $10,591. At 50%, that would make them eligible for $5,295.50. Hambrick Properties is replacing the old glass block windows that are along the side of the building, and the total cost there is $11,200. Normally, 50% would be $5,600, but this building received a grant back in June of 2016, so there's a proration. They only get a 90% of the full amount due to the fact that it's been less than 5 years. So the amount that they would be eligible for is $5,040.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any comments? I would like to make one on the Hambrick properties. That's the remodeling the old rear part of that building where L&F Electric used to rent. So they're cleaning that all up, painting it and windows. So that's gonna be a nice addition to downtown.
But this is actually not that part of it.
The glass
This is
block on the original building?
The original
Oh, that's even
furniture
better.
store.
That's the only
Side-
part?
the side that faces, would be facing Main Street. It has the old glass block windows instead of windows in it.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah,
That's about the only part of that building they
Right.
haven't remodeled.
right.
Plus, they have done the rear, so good. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Mennel,
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Anything else tonight?
That's all I have tonight,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Chief of Police, Corporation Counsel.
Two items tonight, Your Honor. The first is resolution number 17-21, which is a resolution approving amendment of sewer easement affecting 500 Pierce Street in Morton.
Could we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
This amendment to the existing sewer easement involves a large underground drainage pipe, and the terms of our existing easement do not permit surface improvements over the easement. In the past, there are some neighboring properties where that was permitted, and so we had an individual build a garage, and they were aware of this issue before they built their garage. They built the garage and then requested consideration to allow them to put a driveway in to access the garage. So this agreement would allow them to do so, but it's their own peril. If we have to dig up that underground pipe, we don't have to restore the surface of the ground. The concrete would come out and it'd be their responsibility to put it back in.
All right.
Now, the garage isn't in the easement.
The garage is not in the easement, that's correct. And to Brad's credit, Brad does an excellent job with permitting to verify whether proposed improvements would interfere with an easement, and doesn't permit those that would, and notifies the property owner if their proposed construction would be affected by it, including in this case, going to exceptional lengths to clearly inform the homeowner of those expectations and those impacts.
Any other comments or questions? Call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Menold.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item I have tonight is ordinance number 21-31, an ordinance annexing 7.684 acres off Highland Street to the Village of Morton.
Motion, please.
I so move.
Second.
The ordinance annexes this property adjoining FedEx. It approves a pre-annexation agreement and authorizes signature on the pre-annexation agreement. And it establishes a zoning classification for the property, or approves the zoning change for the I-2 General Industrial District, which overlaps a little bit with a matter Brad will address as well, but it's consistent with that rezoning. The other thing this does, which is a little bit of a change from prior protocol in terms of the extension of Highland Street to the west, whereas in prior annexations, the protocol had been to extend the street to the far bounds of the annexed property and collect contribution from the other side of the street. So in this case, we're extending Highland West. And past practice was go to the west line of the property we're adding. Later, if somebody builds on the north side, to get money from them to cover their share of the road. In this case, we're requiring the road to be extended half the distance of the annexed property, and thereby, before we'd see development on the north side, we'd require the property owner to the north to take the road, to extend Highland, the remaining 50% to the west.
Any other comments or questions?
I guess the only thing, and I don't have a problem with us doing this because I can remember discussing this with Mr. Loudermilk, is that we have to remember somehow that we don't allow somebody to annex the north side and somehow make it so that they're not annexing close to that property that would be the extension of the road. We got to remember not to let them draw lines that are funny. Okay?
And I think this, I mean, this is a unique, I worked with Laura on this and Brandon at Farnsworth, but this is a unique part of the world here to where it's kind of the peak. Going any further west or north is virtually impossible without connecting to the sewer, which would be at Highland closer to Walmart. So the chances of going further west than this are pretty slim in the near future due to the lack of accessing a sewer. So Highland today doesn't go to the end of the existing road. Fortunately, FedEx wants to just add a parking lot and attach this property to their existing one. So in that sense, it works. But good point. Way down the road, we'll have to deal with that.
But we actually dealt with this when we built FedEx the first time. We didn't go to the end of their property. We just went past their drive. So even as it sits now, where FedEx is, we didn't go to the end of their property. We just went past their entrance because we made them pay for part of the entrance that went out onto Main Street. So we're just kind of continuing down the road.
Right, and just as a reminder, if you're going to bring up old things, Jeff, Highland and Walton Drive around Walmart were only done a portion. We actually wanted them to go all the way, and they said, well, what if? And so we agreed, and so this has been done before. So anyway, I had...
We're just getting a little bit closer.
Right, that's right.
Any other comments, questions? Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I have nothing further tonight, Your Honor.
All right, village trustees, trustee Leach.
A couple items, Your Honor. First one, we have not received,
I did.
oh, there's somebody before me, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I did. I certainly did. I'm sorry, Mr. Leach. Zoning and code
I'll
enforcement.
make
I
it quick.
apologize,
I'll make
Brad.
it quick. 2 items tonight, Your Honor. First item is zoning amendment 20-08 ZA.
Move approval.
Second.
So this is Glenda Cruz and Sherry Bliss requesting the zoning change from RS to I2. So this is the parcel that you just annexed. When you annex in, it defaults to RS zoning. So now we are just applying to rezone it to I2, which is what the FedEx property currently is.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Second item tonight, Your Honor, is the preliminary and final plats for the Cruz and Bliss subdivision. So these are the preliminary and final plats for this parcel that we've just spoke of.
Could we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
If I could add real quick,
Yep.
sorry. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that it's a preliminary and final plat, but we'll still go through the construction or subdivision process. So Pat, if you could confirm, we don't plan to record this until we finalize these plans. Otherwise, we get the cart before the horse, correct?
Yeah, and that's been the custom, how we've
Yeah.
handled other similar developments as well. So we'll prepare signatures and have the plats ready to go and work through the subdivision process with the engineer for the developer and record once we finish the subdivision process.
And our time frame, Laura, if you could add, I don't think they're in a big hurry now with winter.
Right, they're obviously not thinking about construction right now, but they are, I think, April. Thinking
Okay,
about construction
April.
April, definitely for their part of the project, and the roadway will come with
Yep.
before that.
And then that will be the construction plans. Similar, we'll come to an agreement on inspection like we did on Fieldstone. So we got a few more things, but we've talked it out where we're pretty close to where those need to be.
All right, any other questions? Call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes,
Leach.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
that's all.
Nothing else tonight, Your Honor.
Sorry, I ran over you there.
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Village trustees, Mr. Leach, we'll try it again.
A couple things. Tonight, we haven't heard yet back from the state of if they've made any official award for the grant application that we've sent in. As I've talked to our village administrator, they're asking for some information, so I'm guessing they haven't turned us down. So I'm optimistic, we just don't know for sure. So with that, we're not going to award any grants tonight, but I will tell you, we have committed to making those awards by December 30th. So if they get us information, we'll need to have a special meeting, and I don't know, since they could come late or not, should we try to schedule a special meeting for like next Tuesday or Wednesday?
I would suggest that'd be prudent. We, even if we get stuff late, that doesn't excuse the 48 hours of notice and posting
Right.
required. So I'd suggest that would be prudent and perhaps could be coordinated the next day or so.
Okay. So look for that, and my statement to Trustee Parrott when he inquired about it was that we could consider a Zoom meeting if we can't all meet together, just to let you know. All right? Any questions on that? The next item, the first one is ETSB is the Emergency Telephone System Board for Tazewell County. It handles the money that it receives from the state for the taxes that we pay on our phones, whether it's a hardwired landline or on a cell phone. We pay a fee that is collected by phone companies that they remit to the state, which then they remit to the countywide ETSB boards. In Tazewell County, our ETSB board's responsibility is to ensure that if you need to make a 911 call, that one, you can make it, and two, that it's connected with somebody who can handle it. That's their, I would guess, their main charter. But they have recently been discussing for maybe about a year the purchasing of a countywide radio system. That countywide radio system would be, they've taken quotes and they are recommending right now Motorola's Starcom system. And the Motorola Starcom system would allow for the reduction of the number of radio systems that we need to have in police cars or on fire trucks and firemen. Because right now, if we need to talk to another department, we either have to call dispatch, or if we have to call Morton Police or Morton Fire, they don't have the same radio system. Starcom just allows you to turn a dial to get a different bandwidth that you're going to talk on, and you can have individual portable radios that have a dial that would allow you to talk to other departments. As an example, if we were called to assist in a situation where another department, police department or fire department, asked for assistance from Morton, right now the only way that they can communicate with each other, if not face-to-face, is for one fire department or police department to call dispatch, which is, the part that's been connected to the police station, called dispatch, and then they call the other department, and so everything is discussed through a third party, which one causes delay, and two, maybe interpretation issues. So with the Starcom, that's eliminated. They can talk direct to each other. There are so many features on the type of phone or radios that are available. They have GPS capabilities, so that if a fireman was man down in a building, the system, one, knows if he's down because of lack of motion, and then can send an alert out to the fire chief. Also, it can tell you basically where he's at in the building. So there are some really unique features to it. Other features are a police officer wouldn't have to go through dispatch. If he has what I would call the top-of-the-line radio, he wouldn't have to go through dispatch to check a license plate number, because he can actually do it through his radio, and it goes to a central station that then looks up the information that he provides, and it tells him all the pertinent data that he needs to know. So you reduce some of that number of calls that are being handled maybe by dispatchers as well. There's a whole host of other things that it can provide, but the radio system is not cheap if it's going to be countywide. They're looking at maybe anywhere from 4 to 9 towers within Tazewell County to ensure coverage, even if there's redundant coverage. So even if a tower goes down, there are sufficient towers to provide coverage, whether it's a storm that causes an outage, power outage, or just something that goes wrong with the base station, or a tower has some type of failure. So there's sufficient redundancy in the system, so that if you think about it, if our police and fire departments are going to handle emergencies, you wouldn't want somebody to say, oops, lost power. type of thing. So it's an expensive system compared to what we have now. One of the things that I would tell you is do we have any shortcomings with our existing system? I think there is, and Craig, if I say something wrong, correct me on this, but right now I don't think our police or fire can talk directly to anybody in Public Works on a radio. With this system, we could provide Public Works with radios so that if police see a squirrel somewhere, and we know who that really bothers if there's a dead squirrel in the road, they could talk directly to Public Works and tell them where it's at. Or police could tell Public Works if it's snowing or whatever, they could tell them about an intersection or a place that needs to have extra salt or snow removed from, type thing. So as you look at it, allows communication internally within our departments, but also directly then between police and fire if that's necessary. So going along with all of those types of things, we might increase the number of radios that we have as well. The police currently right now have about 25 radios, whether it's in a car or a personal one that they have on them. Chief Miller said that he looks at maybe doing away with the hardwired radios that are in the cars and just leaving the lapel microphone and the radio that would be on the officer, and they'd each have one that they're responsible for. In the fire department, of course, we have radios in the pieces of equipment, and there are about 25 radios between equipment and firemen that need them, but they also all have pagers. This new system does not work with our existing pager system, and so we would probably need to replace those pagers as well. And pagers are those things that the volunteer firemen get notified that they need to respond to one of the firehouses. It tells them which firehouse they need to go to and who they need to respond to or whatever. So besides getting new radios, we would probably also need new pagers. There's about 40 pagers that we have. So between police and fire department, we have about, I'm going to say around 60 to 65 radios. And then if we add Public Works, I'm just going to throw out a number. If we added 15 for Public Works, we would be looking at maybe about 80 radios that we would buy. But then we would connect those radios to the radio system that the ETSB board is looking at purchasing. So we would then have to pay, and I'll use the term loosely, annual fee to be connected to that radio system. The hardest part right now is that there's a special meeting with the ETSB board tomorrow afternoon, and they are wanting to have a vote to purchase this Motorola Starcom system, but they don't have the final price that it might cost the village. I've worked with Nick Graff and John Doozy. John is the police chief in Pekin, and Nick Graff is on the Tazewell County Board, and he's their representative on the ETSB. Looking at maybe an annual fee, and I know this is really a wide band, but an annual fee maybe between $30,000 and $45,000 every year. Then your question would be is what do we pay right now? And it's nowhere near that. But we do have a tower downtown that needs to be removed. We have a landlord that has graciously allowed us to leave it there for a while, but it needs to be removed. So either a new tower gets put up or we connect to the new Starcom system. Also, we have a base station there. That base station has been in for better than 10 years, maybe 10 to 12 years. Lifespan would be anywhere from 15 to 20 years. So with that, in maybe 5 to 10 years, we would need to replace that base station anyway. So instead of investing in a tower and a base station over the next 5 to 10 years, the question is should we participate in the Tazewell County Starcom system? The last thing that I would tell you about the advantage of it is that Peoria County and Woodford County already have Starcom systems. so that, and anywhere the state police are, they have a STARCOM system, and the Illinois Department of Transportation utilizes the STARCOM system. The advantage is that if you're within range of any one of those towers, no matter where you're at in the state, it would be like you were still in Morton. The advantage, though, is the power of those towers with the radio. So as our fire chief, Kelly, has said, when paramedics go to OSF because of an emergency call, once they are inside the hospital, there is no communication with Morton anymore. But with STARCOM, there would be. So we would still be able to contact them anywhere they're at in Peoria. And so almost literally everywhere you would go in the state of Illinois, you would be close to a tower. There are some areas like southeast portion of Tazewell County that don't have a tower right now, but there would be towers put up. So there are some counties that aren't part of STARCOM, but as they come on, you could be literally anywhere in the state of Illinois and be in contact with anybody else who is on our system. So I'm not asking for absolute approval, but I'm wondering, when I throw out the number 30 to 45,000 a year, do you have a problem? Also, then you got to remember, we have to buy probably about 90 to 100 radios and pagers, and we could probably be spending better than $120,000 on that equipment, and we'd have to buy that to connect. Now you might ask, when would this be? It's going to take Motorola about 12 to 18 months to get the system installed, so we have to procrastinate removing our tower downtown for about 12 to 18 months, but then we need to take it down and we need to be connected to something. So, any questions about what I've said or issues?
There was some mention of needing to do something with a tower over by the police station, by the water plant, somewhere over there, right? Would that no longer be necessary?
Correct. That would no longer be necessary because the towers the 9 towers that would be put up would be owned and managed by the ETSB, and they would be scattered. They have, they have a radio map that Motorola's put together to say where they should be or kind of should be. And so that's where they would go. We would no longer be responsible for maintaining or keeping either the tower or the equipment to keep the tower going. We wouldn't have to worry about the gen sets there because that would all be owned by the ETSB.
Now, it's my understanding also that there currently, at least with the fire department, there's gaps in coverage even within, I guess, the Morton area.
Correct. When you go down Veterans Road to where our sewer plant's down there, there's the mobile home court that's off of Veterans there. The police department radios often lose contact with dispatch as they start to go down Veterans Road in that area. Chief Miller borrowed one of the STARCOM sets that Tazewell County had to play around with, and he drove all through that area and never lost signal, and that's with probably was connected to the state police signal that's in Germantown Hills. So when you look at that, there was no loss of signal there, and everywhere else he was at in Morton he had connection. So if they add 9 new towers, I doubt that we'll ever have a problem with coverage anywhere within the village. Also, lastly, I'm sorry, one more thing. With the new radios, they have GPS connections to them, so you can know where somebody's at. Dispatch will know when a call comes in. They can look at their display and they can see which officer is available or which ambulance is available. They'll know that because that information is available to them. It's a powerful system. Of course, that much power costs money. For 10 years, it would be a total of about $12 million. To pay for the system. It'll take 10 years to pay for the equipment, and then you have maintenance and upkeep of the software. After 10 years, the equipment will be paid for, but you'll still have the maintenance of the equipment and the upkeep of the software after that. So When I say, 30 to 45,000, that's into who knows how long, I mean forever.
The ETSB is the one responsible for all that upfront
Correct.
cost.
So, my experience with, is this a repeater system? Like,
No,
it's not a repeater?
it's not a repeater.
Okay.
Every tower is communicating. It's kind of like cell phones. The closest tower knows that it's close and provides control, but they all are transmitting and receiving at the same time.
Okay.
And the system can take, they're going to have enough power to handle, or enough connections, cards in the computers to handle 1,400 different radios within Tazewell County, but they're only going to start out with about 900, but they assume that as some departments utilize and see how good it is, that there will be some increase in that number.
So, when we buy a new police car, do we put new equipment in that, or do we put old equipment out of other retired police cars into the new police car?
Yeah, we take the old radio and put it in the new car.
And how many different radios are in a police car?
You mean how many different types of radios are in a police car? Because right now,
Well, it looks like there's several antennas coming out of a police car.
correct. Yeah, I think there's 3 different types of radios in the police car.
And that is for,
Communications with others, so you have, police need to communicate with fire, and police need to communicate with, I'm going to guess, other municipalities or whatever, but I don't know if they communicate at all with Public Works.
Usually they read it through our office
That's what I
during the
thought.
day, and we relay it on to the Public Works
I
Department.
think there's capability, but it's not used to that.
Right.
Like I can go in my car and get on
Right.
the fire or the police station.
so even the Public Works, some of those pickups have several different antennas. What radios are in those?
I mean, there's the one radio, but it's probably the same thing you're talking about. It's multiple channels is my guess.
But you have some pickups with,
Yeah, so it's just the one radio in there that's got the 4 channels. One's weather, and then fire, police, and Public Works, I think is what it is. But we've never communicated, really. Let me rewind. Several years ago, when the whole 911 thing changed, that was a big hit on Public Works, which is where even our gas, we switched to a third party on calls. If you called right now today, you're calling Oklahoma and coming back to us. That was a big hit on us because we were always connected to dispatch 24/7, 365. So we would always call, through the police station and out. Those people are no longer there, if that makes sense. But we still don't communicate really much from radio to radio with police.
so your radios are capable of different channels for different. So you have one radio, you can switch from police,
Switch the
fire,
dial,
Public
yeah.
Works,
I'm not
which
sure.
is what this mobile radio will do.
Right, but I'm not sure all of the old radios that are in the police cars have that capability.
Yeah, I'm just wondering when I talk about repeater, this is taking me back 20 years and beyond when we had them. But it's that same thing. We didn't have a tower at the farm, but I paid something each month for the service.
Right.
And I get that.
If you saw the system downtown, it is extremely old
Yeah,
and needs
I'm
to be extremely replaced.
Sure,
I
and
mean,
I'm
it's-
just, the other question I had was, money, I'm thinking about the savings of money. This is intriguing to me. So, if you don't have to take your vehicle to Supreme Radio or wherever to have all these radios installed, a new police car, and when you just,
Right now, you go out to the village garage, you'll see a brand-new police car torn apart for 2 or 3 days putting those old radios in.
Very expensive process.
Yeah, like a full-time
And
mechanic.
what's that cost?
Well, probably 3 days of labor.
Do we do that in-house?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we do, okay.
But that would free up Ryan for 3 days on all 3 cars that we
Right.
buy every year.
Right.
When they're all gonna be updated technology on the body.
And so theoretically, you wouldn't have anything hard mounted in your vehicle.
Probably just the computer.
Yeah, I mean, as far as,
Correct.
Right. We used to go to Supreme Radio too, so I know what you're talking about.
Again, I'm dating myself, I'm an old guy, but.
They're still there.
Yeah, I know. So intriguing. And what's a new two-way radio cost that you put in the police car? I mean, you replace them from time to time, I would think.
I've never asked that question because I assumed that we wouldn't put them in with the new system, so
No.
I don't know.
Now,
Yeah,
I don't remember the
know.
last time we
I
had to
mean, it has
replace
to
one.
be,
I think they're that old.
yeah. Okay, well, anyway.
Well, and the fact to remember is the property where the tower currently sits, our lease runs out on that in January 31st, 2023. So at that time, you're going to be spending, I can't even guess if you were, we had talked about the tower being relocated out here to Cortland. The cost to move all that wiring and everything and getting a new tower erected and everything would be extremely
And
expensive.
Ken, you mentioned here and before of moving tower, whatever. I have had conversation with both chiefs, Reagan, about relocating those towers to space on the AT&T monopole on Detroit. Obviously, they were looking for a reduction in their rent, and that's where we kind of propose, hey, well, can we reserve some space up there on that tower? Which is still a possibility, I think. I think they got space, they'll gladly rent to us.
When I did speak to the police chief, he supported this, and I agreed with him. The new technology and the communication, where you need that for the volunteer firemen, for public works, for any disaster we'd have here, be total communication.
Well, I think anybody in any business agrees that communication is key, especially in an emergency situation. So,
Right, and I can tell you, we have done assists in other communities, and the communication between our, radios to dispatch to the other community poses a hindrance. If it's an emergency, we're just adding time, we're not taking it away.
Hasn't Chief Kelly been seeking a grant, I think with several other local agencies for radio replacement?
I've not asked him about that. We've talked about
Julie,
radios.
do you know anything about that?
I don't know.
We've talked about radios, but I've never asked him about a grant, so I don't know the answer to
Yeah,
that.
I think he has, I think a couple of years now he's,
I think it's a long-standing grant.
yeah,
I think you're
I think
right.
this might be the third year that he's applied, and but I
Okay.
think this time around, I think he joined maybe Pekin, Washington, East Peoria. I think some multi-agencies. Something I thought to the tune of like $1 million, I was thinking. I mean, it was a lot of money they're seeking.
I can't remember. It was,
But anyway, you may want to see what,
Right.
have you talked to Chief Kelly?
Oh, I've talked to him about radios, just the usefulness of them, the addition of being able to respond to things quicker, to keep other people in the loop about what's going on, a whole host of things that he and I have talked about. But I think he did mention the multi-community one, but I don't remember what he told me about that, Ken. I will tell you when I talk about the $30,000 to $45,000 a year fee, it kind of chokes me up a little bit because we don't spend anything close to that right now on maintenance, for what we have. But it doesn't provide the capabilities that this system would have. The one good thing about it then, after if we make a change, is that we never have to worry about anything other than the radios that we own and the people carry. Everything else is taken care of by the ETSB. And then one last thing, and I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but because I don't know everything about TC3, but the dispatch that's in Morton and in Pekin, there is a grant that the ETSB provides to TC3 to help those the smaller communities, who couldn't pay their fair share for 911 coverage, goes to that. But even a community like Morton receives a portion of that grant that goes to TC3. So does anybody know how we pay our other portion of TC3 expense? Because I don't.
It's paid out of the police budget.
Okay, so, but that grant is about $15,000 worth to us. So ETSB takes some of the money they receive from the taxes we pay on our phones, and they subsidize the expenses specifically for dispatch. There is a large balance right now, at least large from my perspective, large balance right now, and I think that they're looking at can they afford to buy the system if the communities that are within Tazewell County are willing to pay for the use of the system. And the idea is you would pay by the number of radios that you have. That's what they have to build the system for. So if we had 100 or 110 radios and pagers, we would pay so much per port to be connected to that system. But they pay for everything else. We just pay for, we buy the radios and the pagers, but then we rent that usefulness from ETSB. Going along with...
So you're, right now, they're talking somewhere 35 to 45,000 annually.
For us.
An annual fee.
Right.
Forever,
for us.
probably.
Right.
And increasing forever.
Probably would increase. I looked at the numbers. They have a 10-year maintenance agreement with Motorola to maintain both the hardware and the software, and it goes up right now. It's pegged at 2% a year per contract. But in 10 years, you don't know what it'll go up to. But that contract says they have to maintain the system in a pristine manner so that it has to work every day, all right? It can never be shut down. So with that, the statement that I was told is that they regularly go in and replace, the circuit boards that are in the system so that they don't wait till they fail, they replace them beforehand. So at the end of the 10 years, the system should be as good as the day that it was put in, or better because of the software changes. Okay?
So are you asking for consensus?
Consensus. Anybody against it? There's only 3 of you.
I'm in. I like all the benefits. I know the police chief and the fire chief would support it.
I'm okay with it.
Okay?
Good.
Okay. Thanks.
And an excellent explanation of that. No wonder you got a glass of water when you came here.
Oh, man. And I'm not even done yet.
Thank you, Steve.
So I have one more item, Your
Okay.
Honor, and that's streetlights on North Main Street. If you came out this way, came out to our fire station here on Cortland by way of North Main Street, when you go home, notice the lights between Cortland and Harding Road. I gave you a piece of paper to explain, all that I have thought. I don't know if there's anything else that you need to know, but I'm just looking for a consensus so that I can tell Mr. Loudermilk that he can go out and get an official bid. But I assume this would go out maybe at the same time that you would do the Cortland intersection type thing. Not trying to look at 2 different projects, but extending the lighting. Type thing. So I don't know if you have any questions or statements other than what I've put in here.
I guess I think it's a good idea. I would agree North Main Street is pretty dark. And with the development that's been occurring, most notably the daycare now, it would be a nice improvement to add street lighting along that section. I would question the number of lights. The 150-foot spacing seems a little excessive. I don't know, Craig, if you have any thoughts on that, but I would think it could be something less than that, 200 to 300 feet.
Yeah, no, I originally said 300. I think two perfect examples when you go out there that'd be similar is Veterans is 300 foot right here between Cortland and Jackson.
Yeah.
And Cortland, as you get closer, those are 150 foot spacing.
Right.
So I think we would look at that and make sure we're lighting it appropriately. I mean, I assume you don't want a bunch of dark spots in the middle, but they'd be, LED similar to Cortland.
Right, right. And then I'm just, the cost seems a little, I mean, as far as your estimate, I don't know where you came up with that, but that seems a little high. I mean, would you agree? I mean, that's 10,000.
I might be a little on the high side, but I mean, I think that's a pretty good budget.
Really?
Being that you got to put a new service in. I mean, it's a new controller. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to add up pretty quick. But like I said, I think we can come in under that. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it.
Yeah.
I worked with Steve a little bit just to make sure we're on the same page.
So lights are something that you don't really pay attention to unless you're paying attention, right? I mean, that sounds stupid, but I came down Polk from my house to 3rd Street. And that from 3rd going east, that is one stinking long block, and there's not one light in that, and that's in town. And so then I started looking around, I said, oh, they just put them on every intersection, so that's the protocol for in town apparently. And so then I drive out North Main, and I've been out that street about 100 million times in my life, and or more. And actually, it's not very dark until you get past Cortland because all the businesses have it lit up pretty well, which is not the point. But so I turn left on. So I look right on Cortland from Maine, and there's lights out there. How far apart are those? And those are new, fairly new.
Yeah.
And those are pretty. Those are pretty far apart.
Side too, I believe. Yeah.
Those are pretty far apart. And you turn left on Cortland, and then they're every really
You can read
close.
while you're driving on Cortland.
Well, I counted them from Maine to North Morton Avenue, and then I thought I mean that's.
You couldn't count that high.
Well, I don't remember how many I got. I was trying to figure out how many per foot just by the math, but I couldn't do it. But anyway, they're really close, and. So what's the protocol and what's the priority? I mean, we have a lot of streets in our city, and is this one because of special requests or is it, I see you have some accident figures and things, but have we done a study on the streets in our city village that need, what's the priority?
Now, if I could add, you mentioned protocol. I mean, any new subdivision, Fieldstone, Orchard Hills, whatever, those longer streets, I would agree with you on some of the shorter blocks downtown. I haven't done anything with them other than what's in the past, but we tend to put them in every 500 foot is where they go in subdivisions like Fieldstone.
Okay.
Obviously, plus or minus, and find a lot line to put them on. So that is pretty much the protocol for residential. If we get up to commercial, industrial, then, on a street, which I haven't done a whole lot, I would say Cortland's probably one of the last ones. We would look at that and do, electrical design and see what was appropriate based on the wattage of the fixture. I will say I think 300 is actually pretty good spacing. That's originally what I had. Most lighting experts, whatever, would probably say more towards 150 on that type of collector street. But those are things we can look at. I don't think we have to define that today, correct, Steve?
Right.
And we'd put some information with that, and you'd be able to see that before we agree to anything.
So there's, going along with what you said, Trustee Mennel, the thing to remember is that we don't expect the traffic count on North Main Street to be reduced. We would expect it to increase. And so with that, I look and there's not a whole lot of accidents out there. I mean, it's not a really accident-prone area. But if you look at Maine and Cortland, where there's lots of light, lots of lanes to work with, there have been 4 accidents, okay, in 2.5 years. There's been 3 at Harding, where there's only 1 light. Okay, my point is that lights don't necessarily prevent accidents, but does it make it safer for everybody if there is lights on North Main Street? Now, there has been a request, as I said, at the business district meeting, to consider putting lights out there, and I thought about it a long time, and when I talked to Craig and I asked Craig, what is the traffic count on that road? And so he, of course, told me how to look it up on the state of Illinois, which is a unique site to go look at, and I looked it up. And at first, 6,700 cars a day doesn't seem like anything till you start looking at other streets within the village and see what they are. And that, I'm going to use the term 2-lane country road, has a lot of traffic on it. I also put that number in there so that you'd realize that as North Main Street continues to take more and more traffic, someday we'll need to put in a center turn lane, which means it's going to be a 3-lane road. But if you look at the problem out there with stormwater runoff and stuff, we would probably always leave it a ditched road, but widen it to 3 lanes. When would that be? I have no idea. But the idea is how do we continue to keep it safe? Because I don't expect traffic to drop out there really at all.
And then again, there are other dark streets, and I haven't really done a survey, but every morning when I go to work, I have to be careful where I turn into our place of business. And it's a ditch street, and it is stinking dark, and there's businesses all along that street.
Right. So what you need to do is come to the business district meeting and request funds to put in lighting.
Again, my personality is not to do that, but now I'm going to pay a lot more attention. But again, so I'm going to say it again. From Main Street east on Cortland, that seems more reasonably lit rather than west to me.
Yeah, and I would like an opportunity if we go forward with this to present a plan to you guys, but I mean, this is good feedback, but I think we can come up with a plan that meets everybody's
But the advantage of
satisfaction.
looking at it now before more traffic and more of these lots get developed, because we have people looking at them. We're gonna have Morton Rentals opening up more or less I don't know if you call it an event center or what, but it's gonna be a 22,000 square foot building with more going on than it did. It is gonna be getting quite busy out there, so I'd rather be proactive and look at it and bring something back now than later.
So again,
The
consensus.
consensus is, I would agree.
Okay. Trustee Mennel?
Yep, sure.
Okay.
We'll leave
Mayor?
it to Mr. Loudermilk to be conservative.
Your Honor, that's all I have tonight.
Okay, does anyone else, any other trustee have anything? If not, we do not need an executive session, so if we could have a motion to adjourn, I'd appreciate that.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Meeting adjourned.